Today we're going to talk about our flood recovery trade ally incentive program that we're going to be rolling out here. So myself, Michelle, Lauren, Britt kind of go over different aspects of the program and some other flood recovery offering for end users. If folks have questions, put those in the chat. Bryn, can people unmute themselves, or is it all chat?
That's all chat.
Okay, so put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat as we go through this, and we can kind of take those questions as they come in. So what we're going to cover today, how to report damage and get help if you were flooded. We'll go over our Trade Ally incentive for HVAC. Also cover some offers for homeowners and tenants, as well as residential rental property owners. And then we'll have a Q&A at the end. My computer's a little slow today. So just a disclaimer that this webinar is intended to provide a general overview of the offers and resources available to Efficiency Vermont customers. So to know the details of the offers and the rebate amounts, please visit our website. It's efficiencyvermont.com/flood, or you can call our customer service team and they can help you out with whatever questions that you have. All right. How to get help, if you were flooded. So great resource here is 211. So you can either go to the website, or you can give them a call at 211. And then, you can check out Vermont state resources. So if you go to vermont.gov/flood, there's a whole bunch of resources there if you need any assistance if you were flooded. All right. Now, Bryn is going to take over going over our contractor opt-in trade ally incentive. So, Bryn, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for being with us this morning. Echoing Steve, hope you had a really good Thanksgiving. Sounds like, John, you got quite a bit of snow down there in Derby. So definitely safe travels today. So there's a lot on this slide, but really want to capture the primary goal of this incentive really is to try and ensure we've got contractors that are pivoting their work and providing services and support to flood impacted households throughout Vermont. I think there are as many as 9 counties that have been declared disasters by FEMA at this point. By doing that, we we'll be leveraging customer incentives that you'll hear about from Michelle and Lauren, and we're pairing those with trade ally incentives, which I'll be going through today in detail. There are also opportunities to add electrification and resiliency adders, and I'll get into those details. But the primary focus is on heating and hot water systems, and either installing new or replacement systems, and that will mirror the customer incentive. So if you ever have any questions, certainly come to us with anything that comes up. But another frame of reference is also the customer facing HVAC incentives. So this is an opt-in design, but by choosing to participate, we are expecting that that you are prioritizing your work for these customers, for these households that are still really desperately seeking support to get heating and hot water back in their homes. The funding for this is thankfully offered and provided by the Agency of Natural Resources. There are, as I mentioned, eligible products are limited to heating and hot water systems, but there is a wide array of those systems. So that includes fossil fuel boilers and furnaces, wood heating systems, as well as ducted ductless heat pumps. I'll get to the full list soon. Our target audience are customers that are eligible for the flood recovery incentives through Efficiency Vermont. So those are low, moderate income households in those flood impacted areas. So the primary goal being the heating systems themselves, but there's opportunity to get a little bit more incentive, trade-out incentive, by implementing electrification and resiliency measures. I'll get into that a little bit, what that looks like, what that means. And because we are trying to leverage the most number of contractors we can throughout the state, we do have a per household cap as well as a per company cap, but they are generous. They are nothing short of generous, that's for sure. And as a result, we are with limited funds. We do have some funds from A&R, but they're not extensive. But as a result, we have a first come, first served model, as well as the cap on top of that. So the program offers up to $1,000 for heating system, depending on the type of the heating system. And then adders for electrification or resiliency are $250 each for each adder that has been completed. Again, there's quite a bit on this slide, but mainly capturing the heating systems. Fossil fuel systems are eligible as long as they're Energy Star certified. Wood stoves and heat pumps, heat pump water heaters, water heating systems, and the like. The adders, resiliency adders, basically are installing the equipment above designated flood zone. We have some reference materials to help identify what that looks like, what that elevation would be in our submittal materials. For electrification, an economic analysis. So if a homeowner or member of household is looking to move off fossil fuel towards electrification, it's recommended to do some calculations to see whether or not it's in their best financial interest, because in some cases it may be create more of an energy burden for them, and we certainly don't want to create that result. There's also heat pump load design calculations that really should be fairly standard, but we want to encourage that and ensure that that is as much as possible part of the process of doing the installations. And then two additional pieces of equipment that can be incentivized with the adders are circulation pump, as well as mechanical ventilation that meets Energy Star standards. All right. So moving into some of the additional detail of interest. So per household cap of $1,500 and a per company cap of $15,000. So that estimates about 10 projects or potentially more, depending on the number of adders that you do per household. So at the lowest tier, this is broken up into tiers based on preferred pieces of equipment. The lowest tier is at $500 for boilers, fossil fuel boilers, furnaces, water heaters. That's inclusive of oil, propane, and natural gas. $750 for pellet boilers, wood boilers, furnaces, and pellet stoves and wood stoves as well. And then the highest for the most preferred equipment is ducted, ductless, electric water heaters and heat pump water heaters at the $1,000 level. And then with the adders, you could get up to $1,500 per home, or if you combine equipment such as boiler furnaces with a heat pump, that could also get you up to the cap. All right. So who is eligible? If you're already an EEN member, an Efficiency Excellence Network member, then you likely only need to sign the participation agreement. If you're new to working with us with Efficiency Vermont, this program is still open, and you likely are still eligible depending on the type of work that you're doing. So if you're focusing on fossil fuel equipment, we'll just need to make sure you have valid oil, propane, natural gas license, or a Vermont equivalent. So if you're from out of state, just making sure that they have recognized reciprocity there. With advanced wood heat, just proof of manufacturer training, ducted ductless EPA 608 certification. And then for hot water systems, plumber's license or higher, again, or Vermont recognized equivalent. So once you have interest and you want to reach out to us to enroll, you just read and sign through the participation agreement. This is very familiar, very standard for anyone that's already in the EN. Customer confidential agreement. So we have terms that we have to adhere to ensure confidentiality of customers' personal information. A self-certification attesting that you've installed the equipment and have experience doing so. And then we'll need a certificate of insurance and copies of licenses or certifications for any of those services above that you are planning to offer. So again, pretty standard. Most of our EN members have already provided this equipment or provided this information to us and are that are enrolled in our HVAC trade group. But if you're new, certainly happy to chat with you for any questions and walk through any details of how to enroll. All right, so participation flow chart. So really you're connecting with us, enrolling in the program, connecting with customers, installing the equipment, helping them with the customer flood rebates, submittal and application process. And then once those documents are submitted to us, and making sure that we have all the information we need from invoices, manufacturer model, make model details, then you can submit your own incentive form for the trade incentive. So this can help kind of break it down a bit. We're not doing customer pairing, but there are a number of ways to connect with customers that are seeking HVAC contractors. So we can help guide you on some ways to do that. But here's just a quick flow chart for folks that are that like the visual cues. Steve, any questions so far?
No questions so far.
All right, I'll keep going then. All right, so basically this is captures the previous slide, but in written out a little bit more. So complete the interest form. You can either email us directly at en@efficiencyvermont.com, reach out to me. You can put my email address in the chat in a moment. Or for our trade allies, we have a section of the website where you can complete interest and it'll come directly to me and we'll follow up with you quickly thereafter. Once we hear from you, we'll send you the trade ally incentive agreement, participation agreement forms. And you can speed things up by having your certificate of insurance and your licenses ready for us. It really should, altogether, it really should only take, 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get you registered, so long as we have all the documents we need. Then going and helping with flood impacted households, with their heating, hot water systems, doing adders as they have interest. And then most importantly is helping customers fill out the flood rebate forms for the customer incentives, because that is really what hinges on whether or not you as a contractor are eligible for the trade ally incentive. So once they've submitted their forms, they're eligible, it gets the work gets approved. We'll review the trade ally incentive form. It has some of the same information, customer product installed and customer name, address, so that we can match those on our end. And once we have all that, we'll issue a check. All right, so how do you connect with flood impacted households? So you can, there are a variety of ways, and this certainly is not an exhaustive list. You can advertise on Front Porch Forum, local newsletters, newspapers, connect with other contractors in flood impacted towns. Certainly use the EEN network, find a pro to find contractors that may be willing to partner and refer customers to you that they don't have the capacity for or unable to get to in the near future. Connect with local suppliers, hardware stores, see if they will be willing to put up some advertisements for you. We can leverage our co-op advertising. We have some limited funds for that, but certainly that is something that's available while funds last, to help with offset the cost of advertising. And then some of you may be familiar with a Facebook group, hashtag VT Flood 23, Response and Recovery Mutual Aid. That's pretty active. It seems like there's quite a few people on that Facebook group. It might be an opportunity to say that you have capacity and you're interested in helping customers that are still looking for heating and hot water systems, and mention your service area. All right, another promotional opportunities. Certainly, if you have interest in enrolling in the Greater EEN, that was more than welcome. We'd love to welcome you into our network. You can register with the Vermont Office of Professional Regulation. They have a contractor registry. Customers are being guided towards that resource, as well as for plumbers licenses, Department of Fire Safety for plumbers and electricians is another opportunity to get your name listed as a business that is looking to support flood impacted customers. So I want to pause there. I kind of covered quite a bit of content fairly quickly. Any questions on that? Okay.
Bryn, one thing, and did we touch on, start date of this? Because it dates back, it backdates, right? So if projects were completed.
Great question. Yeah, thank you for that. So the flood recovery customer rebate started September 5th. So these projects that have been completed that are eligible under the customer rebates are also eligible for the trade ally incentive. So if you did projects in September, if you have customers that receive the trade allies, the customer facing flood rebates, then you are also eligible to have retroactive incentives for the work that you did before we were able to get this launched. So that was the intent, was to get this launched as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, some of the negotiations and agreements on our end took longer to finalize than we had hoped, but the goal was to make sure that this offer was leveraging the customer flood recovery rebate, so they're paired in that way. So not sure if that clearly answers the question, but it is retroactive, and so long as the customer is eligible and has received the flood recovery rebate themselves. Good question. Anything else, Steve?
Yeah. So Rob wanted, maybe we could go back. He wanted just a little bit more in-depth explanation on the trade ally incentive. So maybe we could go back to the slide that lists the stuff out there. Yeah, this one.
Sure.
What? So Rob, yeah. Go ahead.
What additional detail can we offer?
I think so basically, Rob, and please, if this doesn't answer your question, let us know. And we're happy to talk one-on-one as well. But essentially, this contractor incentive is for work where you are prioritizing low and moderate income Vermonters who were flood impacted, and installing hot water systems as well as heating equipment. And so based on what you install on this list here, there's the trade ally incentive that goes with that. And so for boilers, furnaces, and fossil fuel hot water systems, it starts at 500, and then it kind of works its way up based on the other technologies, with that cap of $1,500 per customer. Is there specific questions, Rob, there that you want us to cover? Okay. Yeah, we'll chat more one-on-one. That sounds good.
And as Michelle and Lauren get into the customer-facing rebates, that may help with some clarification as well. So, but if not, yeah, certainly we can chat with anybody that has additional questions that are answered today. All right, let me see if I can get through to. All right, Michelle, I'll hand it off to you.
Hi, everyone. First, I want to apologize for my voice. My kid gifted me this lovely cold through Thanksgiving, so I'll do my best. But yeah, my name is Michelle McCutcheon-Shore. I've actually not participated in one of these calls before, so I probably don't know most of you, but I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Efficiency Vermont. I'm presented on these offers a few times, and I've been supporting customers out in the field and accessing them. So I'll give you an overview, but if you have questions, Steve in particular, if you want to interrupt me at all, if there's a question, I'm happy to take them as I'm talking. So we can go to the next slide. Where do our incentives fit into someone's recovery process? Our incentives are really designed to fill in the gap of other things. So we really are encouraging customers to go through their insurance, FEMA, if applicable. Obviously, the FEMA deadline has ended, but I left this in here because if people are currently working through the FEMA process, they may or may not want to wait until they feel that process is over with them. And I say that because a lot of people can choose to rebuttal or ask for more money from FEMA and go through multiple steps with them. So they may want to go through all of that before going to our incentives. If people have participated in the weatherization assistance programs in the past, the WAP programs, or they believe that they could be eligible based on their income, then they definitely want to talk to them. Oh, Bryn, can you go back to that slide? There you go, thanks. And then after all that, after people have gone through all those processes, they should come to us. And again, our incentives are designed to try to help fill in the gaps that we've been hearing out in the field. You can go to the next slide. So we have kind of two different buckets for our incentives. The first I'm going to talk about is for HVACs and appliance rebates, and then I'll talk about our weatherization changes to our program for flood impacted victims. You can go to the next slide. So first and foremost, these offers are open to low and moderate income Vermonters. This slide has an overview of annual household income. Obviously, some of you may or may not be having conversations about people's income with them, but it is important that they know that this is for low and moderate income Vermonters only. We also obviously serve people with more than 5 people in their household. I just frankly couldn't fit it on the slide. So if you have a customer that has more than 5 people in their household and they want to know the income levels, they can reach out to us. But you can see that, the numbers are pretty generous. So we are finding that most people who need assistance are falling into these categories. Go to the next slide. In addition, again, people must go to their insurance companies first before accessing our offers. There is a $10,000 cap per household cap for flood recovery appliance rebates. This does not apply to anything that people have done in the past. So if people have gone through our programs, have received our rebates, that doesn't negatively impact them through this process. We realize people have gotten rid of over appliances, maybe had weatherization work done, had their houses gutted, and they're kind of starting off to zero. So we didn't want this to negatively impact that. The flood damage must have occurred in a home between July 10th and July 31st. in most of the counties. For Addison, we extended that to August 10th based on some flooding that happened afterwards. And tenants may access our offers, but with the exclusion of the small appliances, which we'll talk about in the next slide, they must receive an attestation of ownership of those appliances that they are replacing. So we can't have a tenant going and replacing something that is owned by a property owner, but if they own the appliance, they can access our offers to replace them. Go to the next slide. So we have 5 categories for our offers: large appliances, small appliances, heating systems, hot water heaters, and electrical systems. You'll see the qualifications of how these appliances must be, what they must be replaced with, as well as their current state. So for large appliances, heating systems, and hot water heaters, they must be replaced. The old systems must be no longer functioning. But for small appliances, they can just purchase these things new if they feel they need them for their home after the flooding. Particularly, we're seeing this in the area of dehumidifiers and air purifiers. People may have not owned them before, but now feel like they need them. Again, tenants can access these offers, but they must have that attestation declared of ownership signed by themselves and the property owner, with the exception of the small appliances. So you can go to the next slide. And I apologize for this very dense slide with all the details on it, but I wanted to make sure it was in here. So you'll see the different caps, the different requirements on a home. Most things need to be not functioning. People can add wood pellet stoves and deckless heat pumps to their homes if their original heating system was damaged, but now they're looking for a backup system. We're seeing this a lot, actually, or I am out in the field talking to people who maybe just had a furnace and now are looking to add something up as backup. And so particularly with wood stoves, people seem to be interested in adding them back to their home when they may have removed them at one point or something like that. One caveat to the $10,000 cap is that heat pump hot water heaters don't impact that cap, and that just has to do with the funding mechanism for that program. So if someone decides to replace their heat pump water heater, their water heater with a heat pump water heater, that does not impact that $10,000 cap. You'll also see that the caps for low income are slightly higher than for moderate income. So now I'll talk about the weatherization offers for flood impacted homes. You can go to the next slide, Bryn. So pretty much, we have our weatherization offer that are available statewide. We made some adjustments to it for flood impacted homes. So first and foremost, blower door tests are not required prior to beginning the project. That's because we know most customers have removed their walls. There's nothing really to test, and or maybe they started doing the work themselves, and so we can't really have like a clear baseline. So we removed that requirement beforehand. Obviously, we want people to be using EN contractors. We're encouraging people to still do that. However, there's a lot of people who went and did work to their home and or have used out-of-network contractors in order to just get their houses back up and running. And so if people have done that, we are allowing them to use an EN contractor to inspect and test out the work. We also are allowing them to access 75% of the cost of testing their home at the end, even if it does not meet the standards that we have for our program. So again, standard offered up to 75% of project costs, up to $4,000 for market rate homes, and then for low and moderate income, 75% of project costs up to $9,500. So far, this weatherization offer hasn't drawn nearly as much attention as the appliance replacement program. People definitely seem to be much more focused on trying to just get heating systems back up and running and hot water systems back up and running. You go to the next slide. So because all of our offers right now are retroactive, meaning homeowners need to put out the cost before they receive their incentives, we have been investing a lot in redesigning and pushing out our financing offers to help people with the upfront cost. So you can go to the next slide. So this is all done through our home energy loan, which hopefully most of you are familiar with. We've had it for quite some time now. For flood impacted homes, we've created an entire tier of 0% interest. Given the rates out there, this has been very attractive to a lot of people. We're getting a lot of good feedback on it. So even for people who fall into the higher income tiers can get 0% interest up to 5 years. We've upped the amount to $30,000, and the same participating lenders, VCSEU, Opportunities Credit Union, and NeighborWorks of Western Vermont are all participating. Our allowable projects have pretty much stayed the same. However, the health and safety requirement that we used to have there, I believe the cap was, I think it was 50%, but we've removed that cap so people can use more of this for health and safety measures required for efficiency projects. This is because we heard a lot from customers saying, it's great that your money's out there to help us replace our systems, but we need money to be able to, deal with the impacts of the flood that have made our home not as safe. So that cap is removed for flood impacted victims, and then the categories are all the same. Also, if you're working with a customer who names that they're not able to, have capital up front, and they're unable to take out a loan for whatever reason, please have them reach out to us. We do have some other mechanisms in place to help people who are in that kind of category who believe they won't qualify for a loan, they can't take out for a loan, and they also can't afford the upfront cost. We've been working one-on-one with customers to really figure out how we can support them in coming up with this upfront cost, because this is another piece that we've heard over and over and over from people that they just can't deal with either in loan payment, they can't deal with the upfront costs, they need more assistance. And so we have a handful of different mechanisms that we can tap into through our partners or through us. Obviously, we can't make any promise that we're going to be able to serve everyone, but it has opened the door up for a lot of people, and our customer service team is there to work with individuals one-on-one. I'm going to stop there and hand it over to Lauren in a second, but were there any questions? I don't think I saw any in the chat.
Nope, I don't see any questions.
Okay. And hopefully people saw that these rebates, one of the big differences I meant to mention when I was talking through it is that you can use the incentives for flood recovery to replace fossil fuel burning systems as long as they're Energy Star. I know that's a big change in our programs. We haven't had that in a while, but we opened that up for flood impacted victims. So those were on those slides back there, and I meant to mention it. So I just want to make sure I said it before I jumped off, and I will hand it off to Lauren.
Great, thanks so much, Michelle. Happy to be with everybody this morning. Going to talk specifically about our flood recovery offers for rental property owners. So folks who are building owners and operators of residential rental properties. So if we advance. Great, thanks so much, Brad. All right, so a few things to kind of focus on relative to this slide. So for starters, actually starting at the bottom, the chart here, this is going to look different than the income eligibility chart that Michelle spoke to earlier. And that's because for our rental property owner offers, the eligibility is based off of what amount of rent is charged for the apartment units or dwellings in the particular property. So these rent amounts represent the affordable rent limit based on moderate income. So folks who are living in rental units where the amount of rent meets these rental thresholds or below would be eligible, the building would be for the property owner. A few key things in general, though, we do want to make sure that rental property owners are submitting to property insurance before submitting to Efficiency Vermont to take advantage of the offers we have here. And there is a similar but also a twist on the amount of overall support that we're offering, because we recognize that multi-unit properties often that are flood affected may often require more support overall. So what that breaks down to is a $10,000 per unit, so apartment unit cap for water heating appliances, large and small, as well as ductless heat pumps, and then a $10,000 per building for central heating systems that were damaged by the flood. One thing that we are encouraging and ask is that if you're working with a rental property owner where there are 5 or more units in the building, we do want to ask that you reach out, or we have the rental property owner reach out to Efficiency Vermont to see what type of custom incentive may be possible to kind of cobble together relative to the heating system replacement. And the reason for that is because we started to hear some feedback from rental property owners that the very robust incentives that we are offering here for heat pumps were really driving some rental property owners to consider electrifying their properties, which is great. However, in the case of properties where previously the owner was paying for heat, switching that over to tenants for who are in particular low income could be really an untenable situation. So we want to be able to design for larger properties a custom incentive package that may enable the replacement of the central system, as well as in addition to that, heat pumps, and see what we can put together relative to that. All right, so if we advance. So this is just a quick overview of eligible equipment for rental property owners. It mirrors quite a bit what Michelle spoke to earlier for homeowners as well as tenants, but we do address large appliances. So that is, of course, refrigerators, freezers, in-unit washers, and also in-unit dryers. So that does not mean the commercial equipment in the basement. Small appliances, including air conditioners, dehumidifiers, and air purifiers. We are allowing those to not necessarily be, or to be included here, even if it's not a replacement. So those can be purchased outright using flood recovery rebates here. The heating systems, and as well as the hot water heaters. And like Michelle said earlier, the heat pump water heaters, or the installation of heat pump hot water heaters, or any electric panel upgrade work that's necessary as a result of flood affected rental property do not count towards those per unit or per property maxes. And the bottom here, the call out for that this offer cannot be combined with our existing rental property rebate program. And that's because we've designed the rebate amounts for rental property owners to be robust, so that they're meant to cover the large portion of what the appliances, for example, or the heating systems may require. So rather than having rental property owners having to access multiple forms, multiple processes, such as the existing rental property rebate program plus the flood recovery, we figured we'd kind of streamline the process and make it a one-stop shop, which we know is customer friendly and customer centric experience overall. All right. So if we advance, apologies similarly to Michelle for the super dense slide here. Hopefully this can just serve as a reference point for those of you who want to review the slide deck afterwards for overall. Quick overview of what the overall product requirements are, and then what the incentive amounts are as well. All right, if we advance. And a quick fine print overall. Want to reiterate again that property owners must submit to their property insurance before submitting to Efficiency Vermont. So essentially, the idea here is that property owners should be submitting to Efficiency Vermont for any amount that insurance would not cover or pick up. There is just a quick call out for eligibility for in-unit versus whole building equipment. Want to name that for in-unit products, so such as refrigerators, freezers, if they are in unit, or let's say in-unit washers and dryers, that's based on the rent level for the individual unit that those are getting installed in. We recognize that there are some rental properties where some of the apartments may reach that below that rent level cap, and some may exceed it. So if the entire property was affected and some of the units are rent eligible based on the income chart I had earlier, those can be addressed if you're helping folks to overall look at what's going on in the individual unit. That being said, we recognize that for the trade ally incentive and replacing of the heating equipment, most of the things that you guys will be helping owners to address and to navigate may be the whole building equipment. So in that case, at least 50% of the units in the building must meet that eligibility threshold based on rent levels. Quick note about a term and condition, if you will, that we've added to the rental property rebates for flood affected properties is this rental rate protection. And basically what this means is that we're trying to help discourage the increasing of rent amounts on account of the improvements that the flood rebates may provide to a property overall. So what this means is that a rental property owner cannot or agrees to not increase their rent levels for 36 months, so 3 years, after the installation of appliances or any equipment in either the individual apartment or the building as a whole that were supported by virtue of this program. All right. And that was, I know, pretty quick. I'll fully admit that I kind of raced through because my computer just told me it's about to restart in a few minutes, but happy to answer any questions. And certainly feel free to contact by email or give a call if there's anything that folks would like clarification on.
Great, thank you so much. So while we did cover quite a bit of detail for the customer incentives that included appliances and weatherization, the trade alley incentive is linked to the heating and hot water systems and those incentives that customers at rental property owners, households can apply for and receive a customer incentive for. We know that there is quite a bit of stress around the upfront cost that has to be bared. So we're hoping that this trade ally incentive helps cushion some of that upfront cost and also covers any additional costs for driving further outside your traditional service territory or additional workforce hours that are accrued as a result of assisting with households in need. So this is the Vermonters helping Vermonters aspect, and certainly we welcome anyone that's from out of state that may have capacity to help. There's certainly more than enough work that needs to be done at this point. So we welcome anyone that's skilled in the trades with these HVAC systems to reach out to us. It's all opt-in. There's no obligation. We're here to answer any and all questions that you have about the incentives, how to assist customers the best with accessing their rebates, with the financing, as well as how to submit your own documentations to get the trade ally incentive. So we certainly have a little bit of time at this point for any questions. There's, I'm sure if you've got questions, others have similar questions. So if you prefer, we can take you off mute or you can write in the chat. But Steve, I'll welcome you to come back on camera and see if there's anything else that I might have missed.
No, I think we cover it. I would, I know there's a lot here, a lot of information to take in. So I would encourage you to reach out to your account manager if you have one, and you're in the EEN, and we can sit down with you one-on-one, to go over this again. And if you're not in the EEN, to reach out to that email address there or call our customer support team and we'll get you signed up. I think one question just came.
Yeah, so a question about submittal process, and that's a great question. We have a form. It's a pretty basic Excel spreadsheet form that's on our trade ally resources webpage. Can provide the link for that. It's basically capturing the name of the customer, the manufacturer, the product details, any adders that were installed, and you'll use that to match with the customer rebates, rebate applications that we've received for flood impacted customers. We are trying to batch those as much as we can. So if you've assisted For more customers, multiple customers in a month that are eligible for that incentive, we encourage you to collect all that on the same sheet and to submit that monthly, usually by the 10th of the month, if possible, so that we can get that into our system and start processing that on our end. I think that the best thing to do is just to really make sure you've got all of the information in that form. Any information that's missing may delay the ability to process the incentive. So same goes for the customer rebate as well. So just make sure if you're submitting your invoices that all of the details, the customer address, your company information, and then the make, model of the equipment installed, anything like line item, the more detail on the invoice form, the more likely that we can process it on the first go, rather than have to circle back for additional information. So we got another question about, does incentive include panel grounding upgrade? So for this trade ally incentive, it's really focused specifically on the HVAC and heating and hot water heating equipment. There's a separate incentive for electrical panels, and Steve, you might have more information about that. But this particular incentive is focused on the HVAC equipment itself and the hot water equipment itself.
Yeah, there is, flooded customers can receive, money towards a panel upgrade to a 200 amp service. And I think that may include, it includes a bunch of stuff there, Bill. I'll have to take a look at that. That's relatively off that was added, the flood side of thing. Let me look into that. I'll get back to you.
Yeah, it's a good question, Bill. So essentially, we most of the customer-facing flood recovery rebates were launched in September. Our electrical panel upgrade facing incentive just launched maybe 2 weeks ago. That incentive, covers a good portion of the equipment. It may also cover some of the labor that goes into that as well. Typically, the incentives really are more focused on the equipment itself. But because we're really focused on doing as much as we can to restore heating, hot water, and basic living system, day-to-day systems for a home, the incentives are expanded compared to what our usual offers are. So, we'll get you some more information on that question, Bill, and we'll certainly, once this we finish up the webinar, the recording will be available. We're happy to share the slide deck as well, and we're always here for any additional questions. Anything else at the moment? Well, thank you all again for making it this morning. Really appreciate all the work that you're doing already. Really hope that this offer, helps remove barriers for you to get out there and to help customers that still are desperately in need of those basic systems. So can't thank you enough for all the work that you're doing. And certainly let us know what you're seeing in the field and be in touch.